sure that the state doesn't come in and
Why?
take over.
But why? Why? For what? To have a village? Black people are so concerned with the vanity and the fashion. And this ain't about you, Choose. I'm just dialoguing with the material. That's all. I want to come from the other side. Here's how I was supposed to say that. I know, girl. I know we gotta respect our elders because we're emotionally abused by them, and they think they deserve much more respect than they actually need. But I know a dumb nigga when I see one. I don't care how young or old he is. All right. Why is it such a bad idea for the state to take over? Why? 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 I mean, why? Why? Just so that some people can have some power? Just so it can look like a black city because you don't want a bunch of white people walking around the village? You don't want a bunch of white people walking around the village and it not looking like a white city? You don't mind letting all them white media members in without card number, asking them for a press pass, though. So they can get the show, Mary. You make sure certain people come in to get the show, don't you? You know what, Reality Check TV? How did you end up getting into that meeting? Or did they go ahead and let you in? We got to go back and look at that footage again. It never dawned on me that you actually did end up getting in that meeting. I'll go back on my own and look at that. Thank you, Choose. Thank you. I appreciate you for saying that. But no, I literally do think it might be a good idea to consider letting the state take over. I mean, I live in a city that is 4.5% black. And sometimes you just got to say what it is. I mean, let me say this in words that may not be as offensive, because I keep saying Dalton is a ghetto and Dalton is full of niggas. And while I do absolutely believe that, it may be too harsh for people to hear. So let me say it this way. There's a possibility that because we were released from captivity with no training in how to move through society, that certain of us shouldn't have our hands in nothing political, governmental. It might be that black politicians who want to be politicians or who currently are should sit back and learn government. We're the least powerful people in the whole world everywhere we go. And we always trying to hold on to power. I love power. I love peace. And I love joy too. And only one of those things are evident in Dalton. There's no peace and there's no joy. There's only power. And it's corrupt. So it might be time. I mean, I'm sure the FBI knows this. I mean, who would be the one to make the decision about whether or not the state takes over? It wouldn't come from the state because the president of Illinois, the governor of Illinois said he don't want no parts. So we're not going to have him step in. We're not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What's more likely that's going to happen is that there will be a federal agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigations. I mean, I would like us to take a look at this, what happened in East St. Louis. Is it all right if we take a step over? Because I think we got the meat and the bones here. And I know she's probably going to continue to break this meeting down. Choose, if you don't mind, can I just follow the facts a little bit? Is it all right if I find out what happened in East St. Louis? Let me see if I can find anything. Let me see. Let me see if I can find anything on what happened in East St. Louis. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. State takes over East St. Louis. What happened? What caused the decline of East St. Louis? No. Oh, here's an article. Damn, this just happened. All right, I got something for us to take a look at. So we are looking at Google, because that's the best place to start in 2024 when you're doing research. I'm really lucky. When I was a little girl, I went to this my public the schools in the area had access. The public school had created this like camp for gifted and talented students, and it was called Spectrum. And I went there. It was probably some of my first interaction with public school kids too, but it was really cool. I went there once a week from 2nd or 3rd grade until 6th grade. And we learned a lot of things on a very collegiate level, like how to research, the steps of research, how to use the Dewey Decimal System, how to actually do the APA and MLA, note taking and citations. We learned a lot. So I'm really glad that I learned those steps at a young age because they're second nature now. We learned the difference between primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, stuff like that. At a very, very young age. I was still in elementary school writing research papers. And so I'm glad that my parents allowed me to do that because now I can use that skill. It makes it a lot more natural for me to do research. So let me ask you guys a question real quick. Is this music too loud? I don't want to do that. Oh, they're not going to let me read that article. Let me see if there's a cached version I can see. Is that music too loud? Could you guys let me know? Damn, I want to see that article. St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Damn. There's an article about it. Let's see. What happened when the state took over? Okay, here's something from 2022. Damn, the state police moved in. They took over the school districts. I'm just going to show you what I'm showing. Oh, you can see it, or maybe you can't. Can you see? Yeah, you can see it. I'm just looking at the headlines of some of these stories, so I can decide which one we need to look at. East St. Louis was the most dangerous suburb in America. Oh my God. Damn, the mayor was murdered? Fuck. See what I'm saying? Some things just need to happen. They took over the school district. They did an intergovernmental agreement with the school district. Trying to see. Oh, the tax base shrunk. So let me see. Damn, the East St. Louis max. What was that? Okay. Okay, let me see. Maybe there's a YouTube video about it. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find something for us to become up to date about this. I'm gonna let us continue to watch Choose while I search in the background and see if I can find some information about What questions do you guys have about the St. Louis situation? One question I have is, what happened when the state took over? That'll help me know which information to go out and look for while we're watching Choose. I have a question. What happened when the state took over? If you guys could just put your questions in the chat and let me know what questions you'd like me to get answered about St. Louis, because I think this is the next thing. I think Choose is on the right track that this is possibly happening, but I think Choose and I might be on different sides of the same coin. The same coin, we both want what's best for Dalton, but we might not necessarily agree if whether or not this is the right thing, which doesn't matter because it's going to happen whether we want it to or not, whether we agree or disagree. But I like to have the conversation, and I'm glad to have it. So let me pull this up, and we'll continue to watch this while I do some research in the background for us.
So there seems to be, I need to get my point across. And it's valid. They're valid. And what are we going to do right now, though?
Okay. So there are things that I think that we can start doing now. You have to take that first step. Just saying no to all long term is what got us into this in the first place.
He did not say no to all long term. What he keeps saying is you don't have time.
Right.
I don't know. Am I the only person that heard that? Because why is this even an argument? He's the man, Mr. Ken Carr.
I love
said,
it.
You don't have time. So to say you're saying no to everything long term, that's not even part of the argument here. No one's saying no. They're saying you don't have time.
Okay. So, I'm basically talking to the board and people that have connections and whatnot to people in the government. We need to start on some of these solutions now.
Okay. Now, before this, Mr. Kankar answers. You hear that? So I'm talking to the trustees and everyone up here, whoever's got connections. You all are a village. You're supposed to be your own connections. Period. You're supposed to be your own connections. That's how it's supposed to go. What do you mean connections? Connections to whom? Connections to whom? That's how cities run, sir. You should know that. Connections to whom? Their connections are to each other. That's the whole point of being the village of Dalton. So this is where it's like, what connections? That's what we're depending on now. Ooh, who knows somebody that's somebody, instead of depending on each other. But I'm gonna let Mr. Cam Carr answer, because I do not have the resume that man has. Well, probably neither of them. I'm just gonna keep it real, because I'm not trying to act like I'm smarter than anybody. I just hear two different things than what you're hearing, Mr. Lee. I hear this man saying we don't have enough time. So, and now I hear you saying, well, the people on the board, whoever y'all connections are, reach out to people and do what? Get us money? What, I mean, help us figure it out. Whatever it is that you mean, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm just saying, whatever it is that you're asking the village board to reach out for connections to outside of your village, who? But let the man answer.
right now.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay, and you cannot count on a bailout from the state of Illinois or from. The Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay, and you cannot count on a bailout from the state of Illinois.
Are surrounding like our neighbors. That's another form of revenue that could possibly help. I know this is longer term than what we need, but what I'm trying to do is look down the road to avoid this because I plan on leaving here for a little while. Okay, so there are things that I think that we can start doing now. You have to take that first step. Just saying no, no, no to all long term is what got us in this in the first place. Okay. So, you know, I'm basically talking to the board and people that have connections and whatnot to, you know, to people in the government. We need to start on some of these solutions now.
Wow.
Right now.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay. And
I'm sorry, I almost fell out my shit. This is funny because it's true. Because Mr. Lee, it seems that you asked, did the board and anyone up there have connections to the government? Let me say that. Let me make sure I enunciate before I be a meme. You asked, could the board reach out to any connections that they may have in the government when, again, you are a village. So the answer that this man gave you is funny because it's true. God helps those who help themselves. Shout out Billie Holiday. God bless the chap. Got his own. That's wild. That's wild. Let's go.
Wow.
Right now.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay, and you cannot count on a bailout from the state of Illinois or from the federal government. It's just not going to happen. State of Illinois is behind $20 billion in bills. Believe me, if they raise the income tax, it's not going to you. Okay, it's going to go to the state. And it's going to pay the bills at the state level. It's just not going to happen.
Well, in that case, you know, I'm just glad you weren't around before we switched from horse and buggies to cars. I mean, if you don't have that attitude.
No, I don't have the attitude, but you have to be realistic. You have to.
One person's realism is another person's reality.
Right. It's obvious that Mr. Lee is delusional, so we're gonna give him a break for a second to come up with more ideas. Them that's God shall get, them that's not shall lose. For the Bible says, and it's still in new, Mama may have a man, but God bless the child that's got his own. That's got his own. How they do it on rock? Them that's got shall pay. Them that's not shall lose. I love that version of that song. I love Billie Holiday too. Obviously. I did get some information about what happens when states take towns over. You know, it's funny because there's not a lot of information about East St. Louis and what happened when the state took over. From what it looks like, they still got a little fucked up little city. Now, here's one thing I did learn, though. I learned during my little few moments of research that I was listening to Mr. Lee. I just know how to funnel bullshit real quick in one ear and out the other. I learned that when the state takes over, it's not like the state takes over. It's not like this big state bucket that comes and drops on the town and just takes over. That's not what happens. It's not what happens. What actually happens is different sectors of the state get taken over. Like the police department will either get taken over by the state police, or you don't want to use the other milk? It's empty. Oh, okay. Or I want to share my oat milk. Or this. Oh, that's your computer. It sounds like somebody protesting outside. I said, not in this little town, not where we live. Ain't nobody protesting. There's somebody chanting on my daughter's computer. Anyway, the state gets taken over in small sectors. You got the police department, you got the school districts, you've got the government. So not necessarily will the state come in and take over everything. What this gentleman here was talking about was the government. But I do want to take a look at a quick video. It's a 1 minute long video that I haven't watched yet, just to see if I can get an idea with you of what would happen if the state were to take over. So let me jump over, see if I can get that information here for us. 1 second.
District is running out of cash, and you and the district are running out of time.
A warning from the county supervisor who would step in if the school district doesn't fix its financial past.
My office continues to insist on a viable budget that will make your district solvent.
But first loan the school the money it needs to take its cash expenses, would include paying employees. They warn it would be costly because the interest charged would be at market rates.
It's an emergency loan. It's a cash loan to the district. Doesn't solve your budget problems. It solves your cash problem.
In exchange for the temporary bailout, the superintendent and board would relinquish powers to a state administrator who would for the operations. In this case, that person was appointed by County Superintendent Dave Gordon.
Locally elected, the state does not have the authority to remove you from your seats, but they will remove your authority to make decisions.
He says the main goal would be to help the school district recover as quickly as possible by
Y'all, I think we're going to have to watch this twice, just so you know.
Focusing on fixing its financial position. At that point, cuts would be made at their discretion, and an opportunity to negotiate those cuts would not be an option.
Let's watch that one more time. I think it was very interesting.
District is running out of cash, and you and the district are running out of time.
A warning from the county supervisor who would step in if the school district doesn't fix its financial problems fast.
My office continues to insist upon a viable budget that will make your district solvent.
The state would first loan the school district the money it needs to take care of its cash expenses, which would include paying employees. They warn it would be costly because the interest charged would be at market rates.
It's an emergency loan. It's a cash loan to the district. Doesn't solve your budget problems. It solves your cash problem.
In exchange for the temporary bailout, the superintendent and board would relinquish its powers to a state administrator who would take over the operations. In this case, that person would be appointed by County Superintendent Dave Gordon.
You are locally elected. The state does not have the authority to remove you from your seats, but they will remove your authority to make decisions.
He says the main goal would be to help the school district recover as quickly as possible by focusing on fixing its financial position. At that point, cuts would be made at their discretion, and an opportunity to negotiate those cuts would not be an option.
District is running out of cash, and you and the district are running out of time.
A warning from the county supervisor who would step in if the school district doesn't fix its financial problems fast.
My office continues to insist upon a viable budget that will make your district solvent.
The state would first loan the school district the money it needs to take care of its cash expenses, which would include paying employees. They warn it would be costly because the interest charged would be at market rates.
And I guarantee you that loan is going to have stipulations on how that money has to be used, receipts that have to be submitted, proof that has to be submitted, all the shit. Because they're not just giving you Tiffany Henyard a loan and then just saying, okay, yeah, pay your employees, because you're not doing it right now. So they're going to give you a loan and they're going to make sure things happen. Because as a matter of fact,
It's an emergency loan. It's a cash loan to the district. Doesn't solve your budget problems. It solves your cash problem.
In exchange for the temporary bail.
keep this in mind. A loan never solves your budget problems. It only solves your cash problems. And that loan has to be repaid at market rate. You're going to pay the same 6-7% as everybody else.
Bailout, the superintendent and board would relinquish its powers to a state administrator who would take over the operations. In this case, that person would be appointed by County Superintendent Dave Gordon.
You are locally elected. The state does not have the authority to remove you from your seats, but they will remove your authority to make decisions.
He says the main goal would be to help the school district recover as quickly as possible by focusing on fixing its financial position. At that point, cuts would be made at their discretion, and an opportunity to negotiate those cuts would not be an option.
Cuts would be made at their discretion, and an opportunity to negotiate those cuts would not happen. I believe that has already happened in Dolton, because there was not a budget meeting this year. There has not been a budget conversation. There's not even a budget. I believe they didn't pay any bills in the last meeting.
District is running out of cash, and you and the district are running out of time.
A warning from the county supervisor who would step in if the school district doesn't fix its financial problems fast.
My office continues to insist upon a viable budget that will make your district solvent.
The state would first loan the school district the money it needs to take care of its cash expenses, which would include paying employees. They warn it would be costly because the interest charged would be at market rates.
It's an emergency loan. It's a cash loan to the district. Doesn't solve your budget problems. It solves your cash problem.
In exchange for the temporary bailout, the superintendent and board would relinquish its powers to a state administrator who would take over the operations. In this case, that person would be appointed by County Superintendent Dave Gordon.
You are locally elected. The state does not have the authority to remove you from your seats, but they will remove your authority to make decisions.
He says the main goal would be to help the school district recover as quickly as possible by focusing on fixing its financial position. At that point, cuts would be made at their discretion, and an opportunity to negotiate those cuts would not be an option.
So Kamal is not going to get an increase on the youth department budget by another $1 million. It's not going to happen. You can forget it. Brittany Norwood is not going to get an increase to the whatever the fuck she's over. Who knows anymore? It's a good thing. I think it's a swell idea. I say it's about time somebody take over. It can't just be about having power. Some folks are in some scam ass marriages too. Some shammy marriages. Marriages ain't shit, but y'all look good together when you go out and hit them streets, huh? Everybody think everything is okay, but they don't know what you're really dealing with at home, do they? Keeping up appearances is some bullshit. Like I said, you can love power like I love power. But you can either be a master of power or you can be a slave to it. And the slaves of power are not always the ones who are the powerless. Because in order to be a slave to power, you have to have power. What we see happening in Dolton is a slavery to power. The thing about power is unless you master it, it's always going to want more. And it's always going to do whatever it wants to do to get it. It doesn't have any limits. It doesn't have any holdback. Speaking of,
Going to pay the bills at the state level. It's just not going to happen.
Well, in that case, I'm just glad you weren't around before we switched from horse and buggies to cars. I mean, if you don't have that attitude.
No, I don't have the attitude, but you have to be realistic. You have to
One person's realism is another person's reality.
right.
Okay?
And you
You
know
gotta
what?
understand something, Dan Lee. You talk first of all, Dan Lee. Let me clear my notes on you real quick. One more. Dan Lee, you were here at this meeting, yet you sit here and try to act like everything is Tiffany Henyard's fault when you know better. Second of all, Dan Lee, why don't you move your ass to Indiana? Third of all, Mr. Lee, that's a fucking expert. You in a baseball jacket. He's in a suit coat. Officially
That's
fuck
true.
you.
However, which reality makes sense in real time?
Come on, choose.
Mr. Lee, you're not listening. I don't know what this feelings thing y'all got going on.
Emotion.
Feelings. Whoa, feelings. This man is not attacking what you're
I got
saying.
another one for you, choose. Wait, emotions make it cry sometimes. These niggas caught up in their feelings. You want it to look like y'all got a black city, but it looks like that. And it smells like that. And it feels like that. And y'all can't even have a good old fireworks show without checking the bank account first. I'm considering the fact, Mr. Lee, that you don't give a fuck about your wife.
He is really making valid points on what to do, how to change these ordinances or vote on the ordinances right now that will help avoid where Dalton is right now. And you just don't seem to be listening. And then here we go with the resorting to taking shots. This is where, I do see that some of this started. What's the point of that? Well, hurry out again. I mean, come on now. Really, when you do that, you're not paying attention to the facts.
Gotta grow the
Why are we talking about realities? The fact is, the statistics that this man said, I did not hear him say no to you. I did not hear him say any of your ideas were not a good idea. The only thing that I did hear Mr. Kankar say to Mr. Lee was, we don't have time at this board meeting where this business is taking place. And I don't know if maybe that's the part that...
See, sometimes it's difficult for people to understand when they're being asked something and when they're being told something. That's why before we go in the store, I have a conversation with my daughter. You heard it. She said, don't ask me for shit. Because I'm not going in this store. You ain't my consultant. You ain't my personal shopper. You along for the motherfucker ride, and you need to behave accordingly. Don't be telling me what you want because I ain't asked you. Mr. Cantinelli, or whatever his name is, please forgive me for not remembering it again, even though it was said. Listen, he's not asking you what you think about this, Dan. He's not asking you for suggestions. The floor wasn't open because this is a brainstorming session. He's literally sitting right next to the podium on purpose because he knew somebody was going to come up there and ask him dumbass questions. He's been doing this for 11 years. He know y'all had a hard time facing reality. So he said, I'm going to sit right next to the mic so I can be real close to answer these questions. But this man is telling you this is what's going to happen. Raise the fucking taxes because this is what's going to happen. He didn't say it was a solution that would feel good. Nope. Nowhere in his credentials did it say he was a kindergarten teacher. So he's not required to package things in such a way to make you feel the most comfortable. He don't have to make you snacks and bottles of water and lay down your cot for nap time, Dan. His job today, which he's probably giving you a fucking discount to do, is to tell you the truth and to tell you the plan. And I don't like it either. Shit, y'all know that. You heard me say that. I don't like the idea of raising taxes again. Or the state's going to take over. Well, the state's going to take over anyway, so go ahead and let the state take over. Listen, when my daddy found out he had cancer, he was like, bye. When my daddy found out he had cancer, when he finally decided to tell us, because he didn't tell us for 3 whole years. My daddy was like, I ain't doing that chemo shit. I'm going to die anyway. I'm 70 years old. The fuck? What I'm holding on for? Heaven is interest-free.
Some of the residents may be missing that long term. If we want to put that on the agenda or after this, then that would be a great idea.
I mean, but why? To make a nigga feel good? This is a republic. And that's why Dolton Politics Group, I say, if the Dolton trustees are going to be teaching people about taxes and life insurance, they need to be teaching them about government. This is a republic. This is not a democracy. And I'm not going to explain that any further because I know the breakdown crew already knows what that means.
But one of the main reasons a board meeting happens is to discuss the business on the agenda. So to be talking about anything long term when the entire purpose of a board meeting is to discuss and vote on current items, old business, and then I believe there is new business. And for me, just looking at this would fall under new business. Can we figure out the ordinance? Can we figure out whether or not we're going to vote on that? Instead of doing this. This is where it devolves. Right here. Right here.
Okay. And so you're saying no. Okay, I understand what you're saying. This is an immediate problem. But I don't have any immediate solutions, just like apparently other than
then nigga go sit down.
On these, in this meeting. However, I do think that we're going to have to start looking forward and stop.
Dan, you're misunderstanding your position here, and it's unfortunate. Go sit down while I talk to you. Ain't nobody ask you. Do you notice, Dan Lee, your name wasn't on the agenda as someone to speak on this topic? Ain't nobody asked you. So the fact that you don't have any solutions is not a surprise. The person with the solution is sitting there in the gray jacket and the white hair and the blue jacket, the blue shirt, who probably has an investment portfolio that will make your grandchildren cry. Who probably makes daily financial decisions that most of us couldn't stand to make. Who is probably so well disciplined in his own financial life that sometimes he even gets on his wife's nerves. But she's so grateful for his discipline, his power, his stewardship, his shrewdness, his finesse. The man told you the fucking truth. And you talking to a man, you see the demographic of the most powerful human being on the planet and the demographic of the least powerful human being on the planet in the same shot, having a conversation. You see the demographic of the most powerful human being on the entire planet. If you stop being dishonest with yourself, then you'll be better. If you stop wanting to pat yourself on the back, then you'll be better. I'm not talking to the breakdown crew. I'm talking to niggas like Dan Lee. That's why I said some people don't want smart people around them. They will reject the knowledge at every single turn. And then there's other niggas like me with one of these, who's always ready. Got a pen in it, bitch. What's up? What's T? Somebody told me last night, I was talking to somebody, they were like, man, I write down everything you say. What? I be writing down everything everybody else say too. Shoot. I'm so glad that I attract people who are like-minded. But I'm telling you, and I'm being for real with you, Dan Lee, you are in the room with a man who could financially, he could buy that village, become the mayor of it, and do a much better job than Jason House, than Kiana Belcher, than Tammy Brown, than Stan Brown, than Andrew Holmes, than Brittany Norwood, than Tiffany Henyard, even Joan Henyard. That man, you got to understand. See, sometimes I was having a conversation with Trina and I said, you said things at that lectern, dais, podium that triggered me. I didn't like when you talked about the trustees, but I went to college. So I've learned how to interact with material and get out of my feelings and understand when information is being presented to me that might change my paradigm and might be good for me. That's why I never fought with Christianity when I found out it wasn't real. That's why God still loves me and protects me, even though I don't worship him. We had a respectful parting of the ways. The God of Jehovah, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Newton, Jesus' daddy. We had a respectful parting of the ways. I said, you know what? I'm realizing that this information doesn't jive with truth. So I'm going to go on down the road and continue to search that truth out. And God said, that's all right, baby. I got you. I'm always going to be with you. I appreciate you being here. And when you get a chance, come on back and clean this shit up. And that's kind of what I do too. But you got to understand who you in the room with, Dan Lee. You got the most powerful demographic and the least powerful demographic in the same shot. No pun intended. All the puns in motherfucking intended. And that ignorance, Dan Lee, that you're carrying right now, that arrogance that's so obvious to every single one of us watching. Every single one of us watching agree that you are embarrassing yourself. And I'm so glad I pulled back on that good pussy. Then I found out you were married too. So yeah. But I don't know what that leap is for, but thank you, Copper Rain. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, sometimes you gotta shut the fuck up and listen, Dan Lee. And understand that when you're poor and you're broke, when someone who is literally rich, did you not hear that man? Do I gotta go back and have Dwayne Muhammad read that? You probably wasn't even listening. Dan Lee, I lose more respect for you and this was before you had a stroke, so I don't know. I lose respect for you over and over again. It gets closer and closer to where I'm like, fuck all of y'all. I'm about to come in and do a raid on Dalton and pull out everybody I love, just like I did before I left China. I left one person in China, but he's built for it. But man, when I left China, I told my people, I was like, you better go because it's about to come. I'm about to unleash on these motherfuckers. You better get out the country. You better pack your bags. You better find you a husband in Germany or something because I'm about to unleash on these motherfuckers. Shit. But all of mine are well protected. Let's continue to listen to Dan Lee make a fool of himself.
I'm thinking small.
Put it under new
Because
business.
at some point, we're going to have to change because we can't nickel and dime ourselves to death forever.
Good evening,
I just wanted to ask a question to him.
Right.
If the state takes over the village, now what will happen? Could you elaborate on that?
They would determine which contracts have priority and need to be fulfilled, and they would determine how much in taxes to levy.
In other words, all them no bid contracts with John's Pro Tree Services, Roger Riley, $25,000 a year that didn't need to happen, that would go away. That car I suspect you bought for your daughter's graduation, they can't figure out why you wrote an $18,000 check, that would go away. They would definitely make sure that there was a warrant list, but wouldn't be no trustees voting on it. So Tammy Brown, your friends wouldn't be getting paid for doing work at the ice skating rink. That would go away. You could forget about Cooper's Hawk. You could forget about Johnny T's barbecue in Jackson. You could forget about the mayor going to DC or buying $5,000 wigs. That'll go away. You could forget about the mayor taking all her nieces and nephews to Ross for Easter and suiting them all up, and it costing the village $900. That'll go away. You know, all these things are going to go away. Them dumbass fiats would go away. All this shit is going to go away. That $100,000 that Keith Freeman gets paid, that'll go away because the state is going to determine the budget. And the payroll is part of the budget. All that shit's going to go away. They will lean everything out. And nobody will go to jail. What the fuck is the problem? Anyway.
And so the state would do the same thing this board here does. They determine the level of services. They determine the tax levy. They would do the exact same thing, except they wouldn't be elected. They'd be appointed.
But you made a statement.
Hold on.
Why is everybody arguing with this?
Anyone stop to listen? They would do the exact same thing that the board would do, but they wouldn't be elected. They'd be appointed. So if we fast forward to 2025 and the state takes over, that means basically the state Democratic Party, because I believe everybody is Democrats is running, but so whichever state run Democratic Party that might win would be elected to that seat, but none of the trustees would even. It's like,
hey Douglas,
it's a toss up for them. Is that why everybody's scrambling? All the trustees could stay, but they wouldn't be elected. They'd be appointed. So I guess if Tiffany stayed mayor 2025, she would be able to appoint everybody.
no.
While people are focused on.
Well, I'm sorry for disagreeing with you so openly, but we just saw, for example, that the mayor ain't gonna have no decision-making power when it comes. You can keep your seat. We don't have the right to put you at your seat, but we definitely taking over these decisions. It's gonna be a quick meeting every Monday. Ain't gonna be no Open Meetings Act violations either. I mean, look at the benefits. Well, let's just talk about one segment, because here we're talking about the state taking over the Board of Trustees. Okay? But could you, in order for us to reform DOLTON, let me talk to you. If you here with me, could you please put a heart and a 100 in the chat? If you are here with me. Thank you. And I need to start being more specific because I'm an awesome manifester, but I'm not always specific. If you are here with me, could you please put a red heart and a red 100 in the chat? Please. I beg of you. I just need to know who's here with me so that I can talk to us. Shout out to everybody in the bushes, whether you are friend or foe. It's best for you never to be my enemy because they all dead. And y'all all dying. Okay. Thank you. Keep it coming. Look. I want your love. I want your spirit. She said, the more I want, the more I need it. Okay. So thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate that. Jed and Mary, we know you watching. Jed is holding it down on Facebook too. Listen.